short form vertical video strategy. Let's talk about short form vertical video and the fact that you can now publish a short form vertical video to all 6 of these platforms. All 6 of these platforms enable the same format of media to not only be published, but is actually the format that is almost most likely statistically to be shared and go viral. There's a little bit of argument there. If we were to talk about LinkedIn and Twitter, there's a little bit of variation there. But on the other 4 platforms, that's literally the lowest barrier to reaching more people with your content of any format of media that you could produce. If you really take a second to reflect on that, in the modern history of the internet, this is the first time that one video can not only be published on all those platforms, but has that organic ability. That has never existed before. They used to be really distinct. Like Twitter was just text, right? Instagram way back was just images, but we can break this all apart. We've never had this opportunity before, and it opens the door for this enormous amount of efficiency with your video marketing. This is what it looks like. This is an example of the exact same video that we edited being released on Piper's channels, on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And even the UI UX interface kind of puts the engagement buttons in the same areas. So there's some considerations you need for headroom and for exact aspect ratios, but there is a replicability here that was not possible in previous eras, which is just exciting from an efficiency standpoint. The time you're going to put into making a short vertical video, might as well get it up on all the platforms that matter. And what this era also has come with is another thing that behooves the young, ambitious, hardworking upstart brands looking to break into the market. And it is the move from the follower-driven media model to the algorithmic-driven media model. And what that means, to make it more simple, is the difference between Kylie Jenner and Hannah Phillips. So Kylie Jenner has something crazy, 400 million followers. And in the previous era of social media, it was all about your followership. So it's not that she could post and reach all 400 of those followers, but she could reliably, predictably, consistently post something, a photo, an image, a video, and reach a meaningful portion of that audience every single time, because the way that the platform could understand what you wanted to see was mostly through who you follow. But as you can see in Hannah's case, despite having a little under 13,000 followers, she can produce a piece of media that reaches more than 50 times, I'm doing that math right? 25 times the amount of followership that she has. I'm not going to do public math. We don't do public math here. You can see it greatly, greatly, greatly outstrips the existing follower base that she has. And that's because the way this media is being understood is very different than previously. It's all, you hear about AI, machine learning. What is happening when this video shows up on someone's mobile device in a feed is there is no ambiguity as to what the person who has the app open is looking at, right? It's not other news feeds where it's like, I'm actually kind of between post 1 and post 2. It's right now, I am looking at this video of Hannah talking about some particular topic. And I either like it, engage with it, comment with it, watch it and rewatch it, or I immediately swipe away onto the next thing. And because that is so discrete, so unambiguous what my activities are in relation to, it gives the algorithm an enormous advantage at recommending you discrete pieces of content that are of quality and of value. And so what that means, it's really difficult for someone like Kylie Jenner, is she can't guarantee that every single post is going to be successful. She has to raise the quality bar because all of her content is going to have to compete with the Hannah Phillips of the world for the marginal piece of attention. But the good news is, if you can make something of quality, even if you don't have a large follower base, you're going to reach a lot of people. And we've experienced that. We've experienced multiple pieces of content that reach more than 25x the existing subscriber base that we have. It's probably even greater than that, Hannah. I'm probably underselling it there. But we've done that multiple times now. So it's not like a wish. It's not a guess when we say it's possible. This is the format that makes that possible. You can screenshot this. You can come back to this later. This is really not the make or break piece, but it's less than 60 seconds. YouTube Shorts caps your short form vertical video at 60 seconds. So if you're over 60, that'll work on TikTok. Reels can go up to 90 seconds. But if you want one piece that can work in all these different places, less than 60 seconds is, yes, the shortest time that is allowed on any of the platforms. But as we said before, it has the best data, and there's a ton of upside for marginal viewership with YouTube Shorts. So it is not being like, hey, I want to make stuff that's 64 seconds and skip YouTube Shorts is not a wise strategy from our perspective. And the reason at like a meta level, we want you to focus on SCVs, because I know, someone like Courtney in the group already makes beautiful long form videos, like already has the long form YouTube video muscle built, is that SCVs have the shortest cycle of input, output, iterate in video marketing, right? A 60-second video, a sub 60-second video, a 30-second video takes way less input to produce. The output can be hosted much more quickly, and therefore you can iterate on your approach much more efficiently than, slaving away at an intense video essay like we also do over weeks, over a month, and then not even getting a feedback cycle until you're 28 days into the production of a piece of content. And the learnings from that, the muscles that you build, the insights that you get in terms of what audiences respond to, what kind of open hooks are resonant, is just going to improve so much more quickly that it's then going to make your long form content better, because you're going to have a better opening hook. You're going to know how to create open loops that retain people and all these other things that we're about to talk about in a moment. One of the most common questions that we get in this idea of cross posting is, am I going to get in trouble for it? Am I going to get downgraded or shadow banned for it? And what our data suggests, but also what the words of the head of Instagram suggest, Adam Mosseri, is that it doesn't matter where you edit these tools. You can use Adobe, you can use CapCut, you can even use TikTok's editing suite. You just need to remove the watermark that comes from posting in a different area. So if you export, if you edit something in an Instagram Reel or a TikTok, when you export it, we've all seen that little thing that shows the account that the video was made by and the logo of the platform, either TikTok or Instagram Reels. If you take that and drop it into YouTube Shorts, if you take that and drop it into, from a Reel to a TikTok or a TikTok to a Reel, that is going to be downgraded, that you will not get the same reach. But if you use a tool like Snaptic, or you pay for the premium version, or you're doing it in Adobe and there is no watermark, there is no degradation, because Instagram's like, hey, you also publish it to TikTok. They don't care. They want, if it's good, they want to show it to more people. So you see it on Instagram, not on TikTok, right? So do not stress about the cross-posting thing. We have not found that to be substantially reductive in reach in any way. So how do I get more views there? And cool, I got it. Short form, important, date, blah, blah, blah. How do I get more views? What do I focus on? It's really easy to default and get obsessed with all sorts of metrics and that you want to focus on. But with Shorts, the other thing we like about it is that there is one metric that you need to be focusing on, one single metric, and it is your average view duration. Give me a 1 in the chat if you've looked at an average view duration graph before, and give me a 0 in the chat if you have not looked at an average view duration graph before. No shame, no fault if you haven't. I'm just trying to get a feel for whether or not this is something you're paying attention to. Fantastic. Fantastic that we have zeros. See ones there too. Excellent. Okay. So the simplest way to look at this and understand it is that graph decaying is the decay of attention over the course of your video. Most people, even when they count as a view, are not watching to the end. At some point in the video, they drop off, just as you, in your own behaviors, don't watch every video that you come across to completion. You get the core concept, or you realize it's not for you, or you just get a little bored and decide to either swipe to the next thing, click to the next thing, or leave the platform and carry on with some other activity. But right now, the strongest indicator of satisfaction in a video that all the platforms use to decide what to recommend more of organically and what to stop recommending is how effective is the video at retaining viewership through the entirety of that video. So that's what we want to be focusing on, and that is something that is provided to us by YouTube and TikTok. The reporting and other dashboards aren't as strong. Another way to think about one of these average view duration graphs simply is that if it's flat, we're not losing people. If it's declining, we're losing people. Spikes could be parts that are actually replayed. So if you've ever hit like the back 5 seconds button or scrolled back in one of these viewing experiences, that will actually create a bump where it's exceeding the baseline amount of viewership because it's getting rewatched, replayed, or shared. And dips are most often when you have like an integrated ad or like a pitch. And it's kind of a bad thing because people don't want to watch the ad and they kind of skip forward to like get through the ad. But it's actually really interesting if you have a dip that then retains back to the same level pre-dip, Because what that actually means is that your content is so good that someone didn't just say, this is an excuse for me to leave. They're like, I just want to get through the ad. I want to get back to their stuff because it's so good. So there's kind of like a counter signal there that's not really important to this group right now, but just an interesting thing to consider when you look at your own average view duration graphs for videos that you publish. This guy's name is Paddy Galloway. He is arguably the number one YouTube consultant on the planet. He's worked for people like Jesser, Noah Kagan, Mr. Beast. We've actually hired him once to look at our channel. We'll probably be doing that again at some point in the near future. But he sees the back end of a number of the biggest channels on the planet. And he was actually open sourced some of that data in a report about shorts that we can all learn from. So he looked at, I think it was like 33 channels, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 500 videos. And he found some really interesting correlations just based on what types of shorts perform the best. And the first thing that jumps out is that we want to be under that 60 seconds, but we want to be close to the 60 seconds. So a kind of common hack, a common move that people try is, okay, Aaron, you're telling me high average view duration is important. Well, if I make a video that's only 5 seconds, it's going to be hard for the person to leave. I could basically trick them into paying attention for 3 or 4 seconds, and I'll just hack the average view duration graph and blow up. Well, unfortunately, the people that build the algorithms at YouTube and TikTok and Instagram are very smart. They recognize that that's a very kind of common logical hack to the average view duration graph. That's not likely to be deemed the most satisfying. In fact, if you have that high average view duration, but no one likes, no one comments, no one actually cares about the thing that you kind of trick them into watching, it's kind of a counter signal that it was mostly just a cheap trick, and they're not going to recommend other videos of yours because you didn't deeply satisfy the person that viewed it. But if you could think about whatever your domain is, you're talking about the transformation of a property by putting the proper paint job on it. If you're talking about transforming the before and after of a website, or the common mistakes that a website has, something about the Google ads that someone runs in their business, something, whatever expertise that you're bringing to the table, it's going to take a little while to actually tell that story. You want to do it in a focused, concise way, but it would be almost impossible to actually teach me something, really turn the light bulb on in less than 10 seconds. You need 30, 40, 50 seconds in order to do that. And so that's going to be the most satisfying, and that's going to have the greatest likelihood of going viral, reaching more people, organically being lifted by these platforms. But interestingly, in addition to the views, the average view duration is an even greater signal. Like, it's even more of a power law when we think of average view duration, where if the average view duration of your short is over 50%, that is by far the most likely signal that we're going to retain, that we're going to reach more people, because the algorithms realize that this is really satisfying for the people viewing it. So that's what these graphs represent. The last one, this is just something to pay attention to as a kind of secondary, tertiary thing. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. Is what activity does someone end the video with? Do they swipe away, or do they continue to view? And if they immediately swipe away, that's a signal that like you really turn them off in some distinct way. And what YouTube Shorts data tells us is that if 60% of people don't swipe away, 60% of people do not swipe away and view, that's like the prerequisite to having something really get a ton of reach. And I want to take a step back here really quickly. We're talking about 50% average view duration. We're talking about 60% of people not swiping away from your video. I am not expecting anyone that's new to Shorts or candidly even getting started to be able to accomplish this consistently off the bat. But if you're way off of those numbers, and then you're like, I can't believe this video didn't go viral, hopefully this is like a little bit of frame of reference for what maybe the pros are shooting and aiming for consistently, and how the gap of iteration improvement, how much of a gap of iteration improvement there is before you're able to have that same type of outside success. And it is learnable. I promise you, all of our numbers at Piper were horrendous, not even close to this stuff when we got started. And the whole point of this group is that you guys get there a lot quicker than we did. So how do we boost average view duration? That is the question that we're trying to answer today, specific to our short form vertical videos. The starting thing, and this is the thing, if you want to like turn off your ears, stop everything else, crystal clear intros. Crystal clear intros. We also need a compelling first frame of the video. We also need strong pacing. We also need to know how to create open loops. But crystal clear intros, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a second, are the thing to be optimizing for. Some people call this hooks. We call them crystal clear intros. your intros should be in the active voice, not the passive voice. So the passive voice might be, when I'm working with a client, I sometimes realize that they probably need, what are we even talking about? Let's get to the point. What is the thing that I need? Versus start your video with the active voice, not your passive voice. Declarative, active, I know exactly what this video is about. Or I could say, you can post the same video to Instagram Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. Maybe you already knew that, you don't care, but if you're like, what? I can? I know what the video is going to be about. I know exactly what we're addressing, and there's no kind of dancing around it in direction that causes me to burn additional calories in my brain to even comprehend what's going on. In addition to that, the right tie to the active voice is you cannot presume context. So the other thing that I did in that intro, often when I'm talking to a client, they'll ask me, the presumption there is that you know what business I'm in, you know what type of client I'm serving. But if I'm coming across you in a feed environment for the first time, what are we talking about? Are your clients, are you digging dishes for them? Are you making videos for them? I have no idea what you're referring to. You cannot presume the context. People always ask me, what do I think about hiring? No, I've hired more than 36 people in the last 3 years. I've had to fire a few of them, and this is what I've learned. I don't presume that you have context. That's how many people I've hired. Some people are going to be like, that's nothing. I've done that in the last quarter. Other people are going to be like, wow, that's more than I've ever considered. This can probably be valuable to me. And they're going to have that very clear opt-in, opt-out decision. And that clarity is actually what allows them to move forward with you. If I'm unclear, there's no chance I'm sticking around, right? I would imagine that most people would not stick around in a video that was speaking in a foreign language that you don't understand without subcaptions, right? Because you can't comprehend what's going on. And a passive voice that presumes context is effectively the same thing. Second thing, and some people are going to have no idea what this is, some people are going to know, you can't do the millennial pause. This is something I definitely had to learn, but the millennial pause is the basic action of having your video, hitting record, kind of like collecting yourself for a half second, and then starting to say what you're going to say. And so there we go. Misha knows what I'm talking about here. It's that little pause of okay, we're recording, and here we go. And if you watch the people that are hyper digital native, they're already starting to talk before the recording happens. They're already in it, and it doesn't give you that kind of second to be what's going on here? I'm lacking context. What's happening? I'm just taking you along with me. And if I'm clear, I'm not presuming context, you're now on the right. We're on the roller coaster going down that average view duration graph together versus I'm trying to pull you along as I'm, barely having any momentum myself. The next two pieces here are an open loop and extreme clarity. And extreme clarity, I've already said in a different way here, but the open loop might be instead of, did you know that, instead of you can post to Instagram Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts, it might be, did you know that there's a surprising truth about posting the same video to Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts? In fact, the data behind what the most successful ones are might surprise you. It's very clear what we're going to talk about. It's very clear, it's very active that this is what the topic of the video is going to be. But if either of those topics, what the data reveals and what the truth is about posting on both those platforms, if either of those are of interest to you, at a biological level, the way we consume things as storytelling animals is we want to complete that loop out of psychological satisfaction. So I'm going to stick around until at least one of those open loops is resolved. But because I actually opened two there, I might have you till the second loop is resolved, and you can see how that would impact the overall average view duration of the video that I'm producing. It's an open loop within a hook. Would you believe that James Dyson, the inventor of that crazy vacuum, actually had an invention before the vacuum? That's a hook and an open loop simultaneously. They're very similar. But if you can layer those open loops, I'm just telling you, it gets absolutely crazy if there's more than one open loop in your intro. The intro is more important than the first frame. You have to get your intros right first, because the first frame is literally visually what your audience member, what your viewer is consuming at the very beginning of that short. And you could optimize your first frame, but have a terrible intro and you're not going to see any sort of success. But if your intros are solid, if you practice the intros, if you've gone through that iterative cycle and loop of practicing this stuff and getting the feedback, then the next thing you want to be focusing on is the very first frame. And yes, a smiling face is better than a neutral face. Like that is exactly right, Drew, that in terms of what you're considering, starting with the smile, not having the long smile, because that's a that's a millennial pause, but having that super positive, engaged energy, right framing of the look of the video to start is going to meaningfully impact swipe away versus retention. Because at a very baseline level, it's going to take a couple seconds for me to hear your intro and process it, right? But it's going to take me milliseconds to see. It's going to take me milliseconds to take a snap judgment. And that can mean that maybe, and I don't like getting too much into like the hacks and the like kooky little things, but if there is some sort of movement, I could be moving into the beginning of the video. I could flip a coin as I'm starting what I'm about to say in the intro. And at the very least, I want to see how the coin lands. I could have a weird nose strip on my nose. Some of you might have seen that in the culture video that we posted for this group, but like that's a meta lesson in there where both Hannah and I are wearing nose strips in the intro. And there's a little bit of like, I hope that they address why they're wearing nose strips in this video that actually gets you in to see our cultural values for the group. So that visual cue can trigger curiosity and almost be its own open loop for retaining the viewer. But another way to think about it is, if I'm going to talk about, being out at a music festival, showing some sort of music festival in the background is a really strong cue. If the sixth word of my intro is music festival, sixth and seventh words are music festival, but showing you music festival right off the bat, I'm going to address that this video is for a certain type of person much more quickly. Start wearing a nose strip. That's the basic takeaway, Mark. Yes, start wearing a nose strip. In addition to that, now we fix these two pieces. We need strong pacing. And this is an iterative thing. This is tight copywriting. Can you tell the story in less sentences and still get the point across? I can't remember if it's a Vonnegut or a Twain quote. I always kind of misquote it, but it's like, I'm sorry this letter is so long. If I had more time, I would have made it shorter. And it's this basic idea that good writing is able to get the same message across in fewer words as you just refine what you're saying. One way to accomplish this is, like I said with the long form videos, slaving over the script, slaving over the edit, and really winnowing it down. Another way to accomplish that is to get a lot of bites at the apple. Get to your 100th short form vertical video by doing 99 and seeing, oh, I could have said that more quickly. Oh, that was inefficient. Oh, I understand how I could be a little bit better at delivering this. And the kind of thing that goes along with that is you don't need to do a continuous take. So most of our shorts are not continuous takes. It's intro 3 times, next sentence 3 times, and then, maybe 2 sentences at a time, and then strung together afterwards with strong editing, B-roll to cover up those jumps. But even without the B-roll, it's a completely normal habit now for people to see those jump cuts happening within the context of a video, as long as the pacing of the story being told is still pleasant to the ear. People aren't going to mind that there's that little jump cut going from one moment to another, especially if it tightens up the overall time of someone moving through the video. You can see how that would impact average view duration. This is more of a hack, but this is just another way if you want to think about driving that retention. You could have angle changes. We did a video where Hannah basically jumped from like the passenger seat to the front windshield to the back seat, and it was still the same continuous take. It saw a much greater average view duration because there's a novelty factor to the story that's going on. Where's she going to be next? Where's she going to be shooting the video from next? That's another simple way to just give someone a cue and kind of an open loop to continue watching. But my favorite one is coming up next, and it is the physical reveal. So has anyone watched there's like the lawn mowing or the power washing of driveways as kind of like a calming effect? People know what I'm talking about. Give me a thumbs up if you do. Thumbs down if you're like, what the heck's he talking about? Nick knows. There we go. Drew, yes. Okay, a lot of people. Fantastic. Cleaning rugs. Misha, you're gonna have to share that with me. I haven't seen that one. I need that in my life. But this is like a classic example where you can see on the left, Tim the lawnmower man has got a really messy yard with overgrown grass. And then he goes in, cleans it up, and you're like, oh, so satisfying. And you kind of know at the beginning, that mess is going to turn into something really clean. I want to see that to resolution. It's just like an open loop. It gives us that before and after effect. But a lot of us in this group are knowledge workers. Now, RB, you could be showing that with the before and after of some process that's happening at Deepwell, and just, hey, here's what the before was, here's what the after was in really short fashion. That would certainly have retention for people. But for folks who are in the knowledge space, you're like, well, how do I do that? Like, I don't have like some widget to show people. And I want to steal something. I want you all to steal something from Book Talk. And this one's aimed at you. So if I have a book, I start it like this, and I go, if you were to ask business owners running $1, $5, $10 million businesses, what is the book they recommend for scaling, for organizing their business, for transforming chaos into order and getting predictable growth? They might recommend this. Now, Lynn knows what I'm about to reveal, but everyone else is like, well, that's a heck of a hook. What is this thing? What is this book? What's the book Traction? It teaches you the entrepreneurial operating system, which has transformed literally thousands of businesses and helped them add millions and millions of dollars in incremental revenue. And it's transformed my life because LMNOP. That as a physical reveal is incredibly powerful. Folks doing web design, you could do that with an old and a new website. So there's plenty of instances here, but I would strongly encourage you to find some form of a physical reveal for a future short form vertical video, because it just has such a fantastic impact on retention. This is one of the last things that I'm going to recommend here. I want you to start in these other areas, but this is kind of the 202 level that'll help you accelerate this learning even more, is go and look at the accounts who are speaking to a similar audience to yours. And if you go to YouTube, you can sort by their most popular shorts. So we know by definition, if we go to shorts, we sort by most popular, these videos have great average view duration. That is by definition what these videos have. That tells us that they have great openers, great hooks, great open loops. I wouldn't say that all of these have fantastic burst frames, but most of them do. You can watch and basically see which hooks you could replicate for your business. It could be in your niche. And if there's something that's working in your niche, like by all means, just use that hook. Or if it's in a different niche, how could you reassemble that hook, that intro, as a premise for a short that you're going to shoot? And writing it out in advance, kind of having really clear, at least what those initial words are, will massively accelerate the quality of introductions. You don't have to have every single word written out script-wise for an entire short. Some people prefer to operate that way, some people don't. But having that intro, writing out what someone is already using effectively as a short, will have an enormous impact on the quality of your short form vertical video. One of the other questions that we get that I just want to address is thumbnails for shorts. So thumbnails are a very important part of a long form video on YouTube. It is your title and your thumbnail that will drive the clicks and the click-through rate for your video, which will translate into more views unequivocally. We haven't found click-through rate to be a particularly essential part of short-form vertical video strategy. Now, it doesn't mean we pay zero attention to it, but what we do, because we have full-time editors, is both of these thumbnails for our video are actually a single frame from the video itself. So our editor knows one of these frames has to basically be the de facto thumbnail, edit that in, and then as you're uploading the short, it will give you an option to scrub through the entire video and select a specific moment to be the thumbnail for that video. We've found that is exponentially more efficient than having a complete separate event of creating a thumbnail for a short form vertical video, because in TikTok and in Reels, Instagram Reels environments, there really isn't even a click-through rate metric. Maybe someone will experience that if they're like on your profile page, and outside of your profile page, there's no like native recommendation engine, which is where click-through rate actually matters for long-form video. There is a little bit of that in YouTube, which is why we still make this effort. But I just want to show you, this is, once again, in our effort to have privileged transparency in this group, this is a real metric from our most successful short that we've ever published to YouTube. And you will see that 95.6 of the traffic is from the short feed, meaning nothing to do with click-through rate whatsoever. So if you're allocating time there, I would re-emphasize your allocation of time towards a thumbnail and overemphasize, spend more time on competitive analysis and tightening up those intros, because that's going to have a much greater impact, and maybe the editing of the video. It's going to have a much greater impact on the performance of the short. Yes, you can't make, great call, Mark, you can't manually upload a thumbnail to YouTube Shorts anyways. So having that screen grab moment makes it efficient for you to literally do it on all the platforms. But I just wanted to show that it does not drive views in a meaningful way. It's the shorts feed that really butters your bread in all of the major platforms. So my challenge to you, our challenge to you from the Guild this week, is to do one of, or preferably all three of these things. If you have a top performing short video, an outlier performing short, replicate that hook. You have permission to use the same hook, but create a different video. So if you're like, hey, these are all my shorts, but beep, this one was different, redo that intro, different body, see if you can replicate its success, because there's something in that intro and that hook that was compelling to people. Number 2, go copy one of your competitors' best hooks. Go see what hooks are working for them, or if not necessarily a direct competitor, but some other account with a big YouTube channel in your space, what hook is working for them, replicate it, make your own short. And if particularly you're in the knowledge work sector, perform a physical reveal in one of your shorts. Pick whatever book you love, start talking about it with a strong intro, a good open loop. Start talking about that book, and then reveal it later at some point in the video. And let me know if that affects your average view duration. Let's discuss 2 questions. So Drew asked about the difference between AVD and swipe away. Swipe away is a specific behavior where the person is choosing to leave your, to get away from your video for a different video. Whereas average view duration, the leaving could be anything. It could be like, I'm just not watching shorts anymore. I'm closing the app. I'm closing the browser. I'm hitting pause. But the specific action of get me out of here, get me to the next thing is like the slightly nuanced difference. That's why I didn't want to spend too much time there. As for Nassar, the shorts that we write are written as shorts first. So we don't necessarily start from blog posts. But the thing that I would recommend is that if you have the blog post and it's a piece of information that you know well, I would feed that I would feed that blog into a ChatGPT, a Bard, and I would ask it for 10 different ideas for hooks and openers that would be most compelling to perform that blog as a video. And then I would immediately eliminate 7, go with the 1 or 2 that you like best. You can consolidate it, but I think if it's a blog post about something you really know, it should be better performed by you just speaking in an authentic way about the thing you know and not trying to word for word script it out. I find that easier. But the hook is going to be really helpful. And if you have all the information of the blog post, the AI is going to be relatively effective at doing that. Okay. I find it difficult creating shorts from podcasts. Can you talk about how to create a hook with existing interview content? Fantastic question. Piper, I see that you have the same one. We agree. We strongly agree with that. And what we are actually find ourselves doing with clients is we are recommending them to think of their shorts as discrete pieces of content. So instead of, because what a lot of the podcasts like pull away clip thing comes from, it comes from like way old school, like Gary Vee's content model, where it's like a pillar piece of content and then pull everything out of it, or other folks that have replicated that to some success. And what's missed in that overall, like that very mechanistically what's happening from like a process standpoint, what's missed is that all of those people, all the most successful people that you can think of who have these podcast clips pulled out of them, I'm not going to try to listen. We know who they are. But they're comedians, or they're like professional speakers, or like top end entrepreneurs. They have enormous experience producing other pieces of content. So they almost speak in memes. They speak in these very tightly compact, distilled stories, ideas. They have, natively in their language, big hooks that retain you through. A lot of them have background in sales, which is there's similar principles here. And so if the speakers don't have that baseline sensibility about what they're actually doing in a podcast, it's going to be really difficult to create that hook. One of the things that you can do is have really good titles over top of the person who's speaking. And that training that we had November 2nd with Jake will help you refine the writing of those titles in a very kind of concise way. But it's really hard to do. You have to listen and just over optimize for when they really create an open hook with the beginning of their answer, but then also don't presume that it's going to be a continuous 60 seconds. So like we said before, you don't presume a continuous take on a dedicated short where you're looking to camera and you are delivering it knowing that it's a short. Why would you presume a continuous take on a podcast? The minimum effort model of the podcast clip is okay from minute 2, second 30 to minute 3, second 15 is the clip. Pull it. Like that's like minimal editing, right? Like I just chopped basically, and here we go. That's like the baseline minimal effort model. But if I'm pulling out even just little words that heighten the effect of copywriting, if I know that there is a really compelling first 5 words of this clip, it's by far the most compelling 5 words of the clip, and there's a title that supports what's being said. Because if I'm saying something, those 5 words are the beginning. I'm hopefully posting those as a caption underneath the speaker. Above the speaker, I shouldn't be replicating the same words. There should be some other form of an open loop that's created, one with the words, one with the title, that drive me into the video that I'm consuming. And just to also step back, because sometimes we're doing this podcast task, I'm particularly talking to Piper here, for someone else. And we do this all the time with clients. What we kind of have to politely remind them is, you're not insert famous comedian. You're not Alex Hormozy. You're not these people. Like, they're famous. And so the other open loop that they're creating by posting a short is having their face on it, right? When a certain person sees Cody Sanchez, is that her name, Hannah? Cody Sanchez? Yep. Cody Sanchez, they just stick around because that's one of their business thinkers that they follow, right? Remember that character is. If you don't have that baseline fame because you're relatively early in your video marketing journey, your face isn't an open hook, right? So that's something that eventually can also be scaled and climbed, but you can't presume that doing minimal editing on a clip, not having a compelling title, not starting it on a banger phrase has any chance of being successful, because the data just bears out that it does not.
Yeah. The one other thing I'll add to that, Courtney, is I've seen a lot of podcasters take reactions and put them up first. So if your guest says something that draws a big reaction from you, the big reaction is the hook and is the intro. And above it is like some supporting phrase of like, you'll never guess what this person climbed. Like, she climbed a V13 and how long, like just stuff like that. If the reaction is first, people want to stick around to see what prompted that reaction.
Cool. So Mark says, if I hate video editing, what do you recommend? Could I implement these strategies in a continuous shot format? You can. The continuous versus discontinuous shooting is not really the make or break element here. To me, and particularly from what I've seen of your videos, Mark, it's just presuming that your intros are not a 10 out of 10, are not an 8 out of 10, are not a 5 out of 10, that they could literally be 3x'd in quality. And that's enough to keep people around. There are people, I follow them. They do continuous shots. They're very well spoken, and they do minimal editing. It's possible. But if I'm saying I want to help you turn every single dial to drive average view duration and therefore grow your channel and grow your business, those factors will help. And so maybe it's offloading it to someone, maybe it's batch processing it so that doing the thing you hate is honestly, 2-hour a week task. We have an editor that, can bang out very minimalistically edited short form vertical video in like 20, 30 minutes. So if you can get your head around, I'm going to shoot, maybe you're going to shoot multiple times, but I'm going to edit at the same time every week for 2 hours or whatever the thing is until I can hire someone to fill this role. I think that's a pathway to really driving higher ABD. Okay. Shorts, marketing plan to draw people to the content you want to be seen. So in general, if you want to step back and think about the incentives of these large platforms, they love the move from follower to algorithm driven because it gives them more power. So the followers having power, the accounts with large followerships having power, and be like, I'm taking my followers to this platform. It's the algorithm that you follow. Like if you think about it as a phenomenon, people will be like, I follow cottagecore TikTok. I follow marketing TikTok. I follow NBA Twitter. The platforms love that because the character is the platform and not the individual producing the content for it. And so to say that another way, they don't want to direct traffic to other websites. They want to keep you on their platform. So the algorithmically driven feed helps that, but also they're going to degrade the performance of links across the board. You can put a link in your bio. Shorts are definitely not the best way to drive traffic to a web page. Long form video on a place like YouTube is going to be more effective, but across the board, literally today, Twitter X just announced that they're degrading traffic to links from their platform. So it's going to hurt, news outlets and people that are promoting their stuff because they want to keep people on Twitter and they want you publishing more of your stuff on Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, and not elsewhere. All of the platforms are on an inexorable march in that direction. It's not going to turn around. It's not going to change. They want you spending more time there so they can deliver more ads, make more money, monetize you, the user, to a greater degree. But if you were, like Nisar, trying to get more traffic back to your site, the reason I'd start with shorts is because the lift to produce a long form video that actually drives website traffic is so great. If it's a muscle you're just building, you're going to become the creative capable of driving way more website links, website traffic with a long form video sooner. You're going to become that person sooner by iterating more quickly with your shorts. And so for now, I would be aiming to get a couple fantastic average view duration shorts. Make sure the links in your bio are tight. Maybe find some tactful ways to talk about your website as a part of the content. But the starting point here, that our framework is an excellent video precedes whatever outcome. If it's website traffic, if it's people signing up to be clients, if it's more subscribers, whatever outcome it is that you're chasing really specifically, if you're like Mark trying to go from 3 to 10,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, the preceding thing is higher quality videos, excellent videos. That's our rallying cry within Piper. Make excellent videos. And what we've talked about today is our best recipe to make that happen. Videos where they loop very well, you can tell it's helping ABD because you can't tell where it starts and ends. First, it's a great video, but second, hang on, wait longer. I need to, because the loop transition is perfect. Yes. So if we actually go, it's going to be hard for me to go all the way back to my average view duration graph, you'll notice that this actually goes above 100%. So this is the 100% line, and it's actually above 100% at the beginning of the average view duration graph. And that's because someone got to the end and it looped back to the beginning so that there's more than 100% overall average view duration. Great answer. I don't know if Nisar, you saw that from Misha about shorts showing up as SERPs, but not driving traffic. See y'all in school. Thank you so much for watching.